When was the last time you drove through a state and witnessed a majestic maze of slot canyons? What about a giant rock wall with the carved signatures of early settlers? Or how about a trail so daunting, you may think twice about actually hiking it? Utah slaps you in the face with 5 national parks that occupy a total of over 1,300 square miles, collectively known as the Mighty Five. So stick around, because we're going to explore all 5 of these parks together. Number 5. This first park on the list dives into the magical world of arched stone, creating views that'll leave you utterly mesmerized. Arches National Park was introduced in 1929, covering a whopping 76,519 acres inside of about 119 square miles. The main road stretches about 18 miles, taking you to the Devil's Garden trailhead and campground. Now, what makes this place a rock star? Well, it's all about the rocks. The distinctive formations shaped by nature's hand. Think water, ice, crazy temperatures, and salt doing an underground dance. The result? A majestic landscape with over 2,000 arches, from tiny 3-foot gaps to the Grand Landscape Arch, measuring a solid 306 feet. And it's not just arches, you've got spires, pinnacles, and balanced rocks, giving the whole place a mind-blowing vibe. Here's the cool part. Underneath all this beauty lies an ancient salt bed, laid down some 300 million years ago. That salt bed? Yeah, it's the real artist here, shaping everything. Over time, it's been shifting and buckling, creating the surreal landscape we see today. So, when you talk about Arches National Park and its 2,000 stone arches, you can't leave out Delicate Arch. It's the poster child for Utah and a spectacle in geological features. I mean, we're talking about an arch with a 46-foot high and 32-foot wide opening. It's the park's grand champion, standing all on its own and defying gravity with that design. However, let me tell you, the hike to Delicate Arch is no easy task. You're looking at a pretty steep climb up a slick rock slope, and there's not a hint of shade. Summer days can get scorching, so if you're tackling this trail, you better be ready for a bit of a workout. But hey, if you're not up for the challenge, don't worry, you've got options. The lower Delicate Arch viewpoint just down the road is a breeze. It's a mere 100-yard walk over flat ground, and you get a sweet view of the arch from a mile away. But if you're feeling a bit more adventurous, head to the upper viewpoint. It's a bit more of a walk, about half a mile, and there are several stairs involved, but you get a slightly less obstructed view. But here's the thing, you can't see the arches opening from the road. So, if you want the full experience, the Delicate Arch Trail is your ticket to seeing this beauty up close and personal. If you've made the challenging hike to Delicate Arch, let us know what your experience was like in the comments. If you're planning a visit, the best times are April to May and September to October. Temperatures hover around a comfortable 60 to 80 degrees, making it perfect for your visit. Summers, on the other hand, can get scorching hot, with the added risk of violent storms and flash floods. And winter? It's quieter, with fewer crowds, but watch out for slippery trails due to occasional snow and ice. Oh, and one last thing, don't expect to find food or lodging in the park. Head over to nearby Moab for all your daily comforts. Though you can take note, Devil's Garden Campground is open year-round, offering 52 sites with water and flush toilets. Just remember to book your spot well in advance, especially during peak seasons. Number 4. Let's buckle up and take a trip down the road about 27 miles, heading further west to delve into the wonders of Canyonlands National Park. It was way back in 1928 when this massive beauty officially claimed its spot, spreading out across a whopping 337,000 acres. That's about 527 square miles. And here's the best part, it's practically 3 parks in one. The Colorado and Green River divide Canyonlands into 3 unique districts. You've got the island in the sky, treating you to mind-blowing views via a sweet 34-mile route. Then there's the Needles District, calling out to all the hiking enthusiasts with its longest and most challenging trails. And if you're up for a real adventure, the Maze District is the place to be. Just be ready for some rough unpaved roads, because it's free admission, but not for the faint of heart. So back in the early 1960s, some folks led by Stuart Udall and Senator Frank Moss thought Canyonlands deserved the national park status. President Kennedy gave it a nod, but Senator Wallace Bennett wasn't entirely on board. After a bit of back and forth, they struck a deal in 1964, officially making it a national park. Senator Moss kept pushing for more protection, and his efforts left a lasting mark on keeping Canyonlands preserved. This park is like a geological time capsule, telling stories from millions of years ago. Layers of sedimentary rocks, originally deposited by ancient seas and dunes, went through a rock makeover called lithification. The result? A layered cake of sedimentary rocks creates the dramatic landscape we see today. You've got sturdy sandstone making those epic cliffs, and softer shale shaping the gentler slopes. Fast forward about 20 million years, and there's a tectonic shindig uplifting the entire Colorado Plateau. Magma even joined the party, turning into solid rock in nearby mountains. If you're planning to hike, I recommend the Mesa Arch Trail. It's hands down one of the best spots to catch the sunrise in Canyonlands. This little loop, barely half a mile long, is a breeze to tackle. You stroll right up to the edge of this sheer cliff, and there it is, the sun just peeking over the horizon. And guess what? Even when it's not sunrise, Mesa Arch still serves up some killer views of the Los Al Mountains. Oh, and you definitely don't want to miss out on the Grand View Point Overlook Trail. I mean, just the name, Grand View Point, it's basically promising you something incredible, right? This trail, a simple 1.8-mile round trip, takes you along the White Rim all the way to the edge of Grand View Point. And let me tell you, the views you get from there, looking south into the heart of Canyonlands, with the Green and Colorado rivers meeting, it's absolutely stunning. Now here's the scoop on the crowd. Canyonlands attracts a respectable 400,000 visitors a year, and it doesn't get as packed as some other parks. The more popular trails can get a bit busy, especially in spring and fall. Surprisingly, even the sizzling summer temperatures draw folks in. But if you're after a serene experience with fewer crowds, the best time is November through February. Just keep in mind, during this time, some trails and four-wheel drive roads might be off the table. Please take this moment to subscribe, hit like, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss our newest destinations. Number 3. Let's take a drive again and cruise further west for about 2 hours to 377 square miles of Capitol Reef National Park. It's arguably the most underrated park in the Mighty Five. I mean, it's the second largest national park in Utah, right after the massive Canyonlands. And here's the kicker, it's not flooded with tourists like some of the other parks in Utah. You won't find the craziness here, as opposed to Moab or St. George. Look, I get it. It might seem like a pit stop for many who are cruising from Bryce Canyon to Moab. But folks, if you give it a chance, Capitol Reef has so much to offer. Take Cassidy Arch for example. It's named after Butch Cassidy the Outlaw. The trail is a bit of a climb, with some serious switchbacks, but once you hit the arch, man, the view is something else. Totally worth the strenuous effort. Then there's the Hickman Bridge Trail, just a couple of miles east of the visitor center. It's an easy walk, not too long or steep, but it takes you to this massive natural arch. However, if you're more into a comfortable trip, the Capitol Reef Scenic Drive is the way to go. It's not a marathon, just under 8 miles. You cruise through the historic Farida area, and if you're up for it, you can hit Capitol Gorge. But remember, it's not a loop, you'll need to turn back the same way you came. Capitol Reef isn't just about trails and rocks. It's got some history too. For instance, the Gifford House in Farida gives you a peek into how people lived back in the early 1900s. And there's this old Mormon schoolhouse in Torrey from 1898. A bunch of folks got together, built it with local lumber, and that thing still stands today. And the Morrell cabin, originally set up in the 1920s as a logging camp, it's been moved around a bit. It's like a living relic, telling stories from back in the day. Also, be sure to walk the Capitol Gorge Trail for a preserved piece of history. It's a 4.5-mile hike, but after about a quarter of a mile, you'll see old petroglyphs carved by the Fremont Indians. Another quarter of a mile down the trail you'll see Pioneer Registry, where early settlers carved their names and dates into a rock wall. Now, the best times to check this place out? I'd say either March to April or late October to November. It's not scorching hot, and you won't have to deal much with crowds. What's not to love? Early mornings, sun rising over those red rocks, and you're practically alone. It's like having your own private show with nature. So whether you're into history, hiking, or just soaking in breathtaking landscapes, Capitol Reef is the real deal. It might not be as flashy as some others, but that's what makes it special. It's like a quiet superstar waiting for you to discover its glory. Number 2. From here, if we hop on Highway 12 and drive about 2.5 hours west, we can land in the vast wonders of Bryce Canyon National Park. Established back in 1928, this beauty spans 56 square miles, which is around 35,840 acres. Back in 1905, Theodore Roosevelt decided to establish a national forest in the area. As more folks caught wind of the scenic wonders, Bryce Canyon was promoted to National Monument in 1923, and finally, National Park status in 1928. What sets Bryce Canyon apart from the crowd? Well, for starters, it's perched at elevations ranging from 8,000 to 9,000 feet. That means cooler temperatures welcome relief from the scorching heat down below. And you want to know a fun fact about Bryce Canyon? It's not really a canyon at all. It's more like a collection of massive natural amphitheaters that eroded into these funky formations, with the hoodoos stealing the show. But the real spectacle? That's Bryce Amphitheater. It's the main attraction of the whole national park scene. If you're up for some adventure, the Peekaboo Trail is where it's at. It's about 3 miles long and forms a loop, but to get to it from Bryce Point, you're looking at a minimum hike of 5 miles round trip. Trust me though, it's worth every step. Along the way, you'll be treated to some jaw-dropping views of the hoodoos. Plus, you'll wander through some lush forested areas lower down the hillside, which adds a nice contrast to the rocky scenery. And here's a little secret, the Peekaboo Trail is usually free from crowds. It's the second best in terms of tranquility, only topped by the longer Fairyland Loop Trail to the north. Keep in mind though, Peekaboo has its challenges. It might seem pretty level, but those short steep climbs do add a bit of a workout. And you can hike it all year, but just know the snow can hang around till about mid-April. Just a heads up though, the trail's shared with mules, so watch your step. So when it comes to Bryce Canyon, you can't miss the Navajo Loop Trail. It's short, steep, and downright beautiful. However, it's also super popular, so expect to be hiking alongside others. If you think you've got the stamina to tackle this 1.3-mile loop, I'd say go for it. It's by far the best hike in the park. And if you have kids, they'll enjoy the hike down. But here's the thing about Bryce Canyon hikes, they all start with this grand overlook of heavenly scenery. But they all end with a hike back up out of the canyon. So be ready for that uphill ascent. The trail starts at Sunset Point, and you head down the rim going through the tight spaces of Wall Street. It passes by the Silent City, hitting an intersection with the Queen's Garden Loop Trail, and reaching the top of Peekaboo Loop. Finally, it ascends back up to the amphitheater rim at Sunset Point. Summer brings pleasant days, while spring and fall offer up those crisp evenings. Winter, it blankets the park with snow, adding an extra layer of beauty. Now, if you ask me, May is the sweet spot for exploring Bryce Canyon. Most of the snow has melted, and the crowds haven't quite descended yet. It's the perfect time to hit those popular trails. Sure, there's still a chance of iffy weather, but with rising temperatures, you won't be disappointed spending some time in May. Number 1. To get to the final park on the list, we have to travel 72 miles southwest to Zion National Park. It's a sprawling wonder covering 232 square miles of plateaus, intricate sandstone canyons, and the meandering Virgin River. It's the crown jewel of Utah's mighty 5 national parks. However, this place is no secret. Dealing with crowds is part of the gig, especially in the busy summer months. But don't worry, I've got the lowdown on some hidden gems that can offer you a breather even on the most hectic summer weekends. Zion has 2 faces, the busy traffic of Zion Canyon and the quieter Kolob Canyons. While Zion Canyon flaunts the big attractions, Kolob offers solitude on long-distance trails. Kolob has expansive landscapes and only sees about 20% of the foot traffic that you get at Zion Canyon. Now let's talk trails. For a family-friendly walk, check out the Emerald Pool Trail. There's 3 stops, lower, middle, and upper pools, making it a 3-mile round trip if you hit them all. It's a popular hike, so expect crowds, especially in narrow sections, but the stunning scenery makes it worthwhile. The trail starts across from Zion Lodge, leading through a shaded paved path by cottonwood trees. After about a half mile, you'll reach the lower pool, and then the trail gets more rugged and narrow the further you go. The final stretch to the upper pool is a challenging uphill climb, but the incredible views and canyon walls make it rewarding. It's roughly a 1.5 mile hike each way, so when you're ready, turn around and follow the trail back down. But if you're on the lookout for the most anxiety-inducing hike in Zion, let me tell you about the incredible Angel's Landing Trail. Back in the 1920s, Thomas Chalmers Vint and Walter Roost built this wild trail that basically takes you up this narrow spine to this insane viewpoint, about 1,500 feet above the ground. But fair warning, it's not for the faint-hearted or anyone scared of heights. Think of it like the half-dome hike in Yosemite, but on a scarier scale. This hike's gonna take you anywhere from 3 to 6 hours, your legs will be on fire, and your knees might be shaky, but man, the view is absolutely amazing. And brace yourself for the crowds. It's gotten so popular that as of April 2022, you need a permit. Apply early for the permit lottery, and cross your fingers for a chance at this breathtaking hike. Next, if you're looking for a legendary hiking adventure, the North Fork of the Virgin River is where it's at. The Zion Narrows, just upstream from the Temple of Sinawava, is the famous icon of all the slot canyons. Experiencing the narrow passage created by the towering canyon walls and the Virgin River gracefully winding around you, it's pure magic. For those of you who aren't hardcore hikers but still want a taste of the action at Zion Narrows, the bottom-up day hike is the way to go. You'll get to experience some of the most amazing sections of the Narrows on the Virgin River. And feel free to make this hike as easy or challenging as you want. It's a round-trip deal, so go as far as your heart desires, then turn around and head back the way you came. The best part? No need for a permit for this adventure. But for the most experienced hikers, there's a challenging 2-day 16-mile hike known as the Top Down. To kick things off, you'll need to sort out transportation, either driving yourself or hooking up with a private outfitter to shuttle you to the distant trailhead. Starting on the upper plateau, you'll witness the Virgin River's subtle beauty before it morphs into the grandeur of a deep slot canyon that eventually spills into Zion Canyon. To embark on this adventure, you'll need to snag yourself a permit at the visitor center and pick out one of the fantastic designated campsites. However, you can also choose to do the Top Down as a day hike if you feel up to the challenge, which requires a day permit. If you're looking for a serene experience, try one of the available horseback tours. Expert guides will lead you on a journey through the park's most picturesque trails, sharing fascinating insights into the area's history, geology, and wildlife along the way. Now, let's talk logistics. The park's popularity led to the introduction of the Zion Canyon Shuttle. It operates daily from March to November and some additional weekends in February. When the shuttle's in action, you unfortunately can't operate your vehicle on Zion Canyon Scenic Drive, but you can cruise along Highway 9 through the southern part of the park from Mount Carmel Junction to Springdale. Just a heads up though, regardless of your mode of travel, that park entrance fee is still required. Unlike some of the other parks, Zion's a year-round destination, with crowds highly likely from February through November. Keep in mind though, the temperature dance can be wild, shifting up to 30 degrees in a day, so layer up for the ultimate experience. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and smash that like button, and be sure to catch this next video covering more national parks.